Yeah, so I was born and raised in northeastern US in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. And during the university years, I tried to get as far away from home as possible and found myself in a beautiful little city called Asheville, North Carolina, very culturally liberal, sort of artsy community. And it was there that I began studying yoga and spirituality. And I began just taking a yoga asana class as a part of my curriculum, part of my semester program. And very shortly after that, I began studying Taoism and Hinduism, and all of that, including some of the early romantic and transcendentalist writers of North America, like Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson. And all of that got me really thinking. I had grown up in a Catholic school setting, and I wasn't really encouraged to be a free thinker much. And there was a lot of believe this, do this, and don't question anything. And so when I started, getting my eyes and my mind opened up to other ways of living, I felt quite much like I was coming home. And that journey for me became ongoing, and I haven't really stopped since that time when I was 18. I haven't really stopped studying and inquiring and being curious about how I can transcend what I perceive to be reality as it is right now, and constantly expand my horizons. And for me, that's the reason I bring that up, I suppose, is because I feel like when we're talking about the subject of mental health and sort of pathways to transform mental health, I feel that approach of remaining curious and being willing to expand our horizons is something that can be so valuable for people, because I know through mild experiences of my own and being friend and family to many men and women who have suffered through some pretty severe mental health scenarios and stages of their life, with depression, anxiety, and feeling directionless. And that practice of constantly returning to the beginner's mind, returning to that place where we can start to question our reality as it is, and not take everything for granted, because those particular conditions seem to have the effect of narrowing our worldview and limiting even further than we may normally experience, limiting the sense of self so much so that it becomes so self-absorbed, and we get caught in loops. And so by opening ourselves up to new ways of thinking, even if at first they might be weird or esoteric or a little bit woo-woo, I have found that there's universal truth in just about anything, and I can take little pieces of various traditions and bring them into my life and adapt them to my own truth. And through that practice of study and exploration, I have found that, I have created what feels to me to be my own personal worldview. So the subject that I want to speak about today is the power of routine and the art of ritual. And I'll be incorporating a little bit of story of my own personal story throughout this journey tonight, because I spent a lot of time in my mid-20s, sort of, I wouldn't say soul searching, but going deeper in this lifestyle of self-study and study of various traditions. I spent a fair bit of time living at yoga ashrams, both in the States and in New Zealand, and also on retreats, meditation retreats, and Vipassana retreats. And in each of those settings, where spiritual practice, quite advanced spiritual practice, was essentially the premise for being there, the sort of overarching theme was to stick to your practice. And it's funny, I'm looking right now, the background that I have on my computer is a pretty popular quote from a famous yogi named Sri Patabi Joyce, and it says, "Do your practice and all is coming." And the essence of that is just to come back to the practice again and again and again. And like I said before, to come with that beginner's mind, that Zen mind, beginner's mind, which is to not expect anything each time we show up and do our practice, but to come with that sense of surrender, that sense of openness, and even some might say emptiness, which allows us to be filled with new perspective, which allows that curiosity to flourish when we can really embody that. And so during my time living at those centers and ashrams, the routine, to be honest, it really gave me the shits. I had so much trouble going to the required 5 a.m. meditation practice, or going to something just because I had been told to, right? And I had that resistance around growing up, where I was told to go to church every Sunday, and went through this period in my teenage years where I said to my father, I don't think I have any reason to go here anymore. I don't necessarily believe this. It doesn't feel like I'm getting anything out of this experience. And he said, well, if you're not going to go to this church, then you need to go to another church. I said, well, okay. But so I went and went to another church and explored, and ended up, being around people speaking in tongues and playing rock and roll music and having this wild sort of out there spiritual experience. And I loved it. But again, it lost meaning for me very quickly, because I realized I could have the same experience going to see Ben Harper or Xavier Rudd or something in the city. And I was like, well, what's the difference? I don't quite get it, right? So it wasn't personal for me. But I was just going because somebody had told me to go. So I had a lot of resistance to that. And when we talk about routine, my new catchphrase is, routine is power, ritual is magic. And the power of routine, when our goal is to effect change in our life, or to transition out of a current mental looping pattern, routine is necessary, right? And when I went to those ashrams, it was at a time when I was at my lowest. I had just ended the relationship that I was in, a marriage, was deteriorated, actually largely surrounding mental health issues that my partner at the time was experiencing. And it just revealed itself that we needed to separate in order for us to both sort of heal what we needed to heal. And so I went off and went down the path of studying yoga, and not just yoga in the physical sense, but yoga is the philosophy, yoga is the lifestyle, the tradition through the Yoga Sutras. And when I found myself at those places, once again being told what to do and saying, hey, do this routine, I had so much resistance, right? And it was only years later, or maybe half a year or even a year later, that I realized that, wow, that meditation that I got up and did every morning at 5 a.m. was so powerful, and created for me a foundation that allowed me to have a greater awareness of my emotions, of my thought patterns, that in the moment I couldn't see past it, right? So I was putting my trust in the process, in the practice, and the teachers who were in front of me. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll go for it, because I'm here and I signed up for this, and I don't really have a choice, and even even through that whole month or 2 months or however long it was at those places, I fought it, right? And I made fun of it. And I still resisted the power that it had. Um, Now, there's so much right now out in the world. I don't know. I know that there's a lot, particularly men being drawn, a lot of men being drawn to sort of a handful of really great, powerful books, such as, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or Atomic Habits, or the 5 a.m. Club. And there's a lot of online courses that I see coming up on my stream about own your morning, own your life, and the secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine, and it's all about morning routine, right? And I love that, and that's something that I really value, and I and do similar things in my work. And that again is an example of when we agree to we see the value in that, right? We say, okay, right, I know that right now my routine, it's lacking. Or maybe my routine is to start thinking negative thoughts, or maybe my routine is to just wake up, start scrolling away, or to light a cigarette, or to go and have some coffee. And there is routine in that, but is there meaning? Is it aligning you with your higher self, your values? And oftentimes when we ask ourselves this question around those sort of more mundane habits, the answer is no, that it's not really aligned. It's not setting that cup of coffee might feel really good, but it's not really setting ourselves up for development in the way that we want to, when we're looking at sustaining a nice sort of balanced mental health outlook on life. So for me, the big difference between routine and ritual is personalizing it. So we can sign up for these courses and we can tick all the boxes and say we've done breath work for 30 days in a row, and watched all the videos and so on and so forth. But unless it has that real personal connection, unless it can take us into a space of being at one with our true nature, which is beyond the individual mind, beyond the ego self, then I think it lacks magic. And I want to share a quote here that actually from one of the other speakers, Jos Sauer, who I follow on social media. And he wrote something recently that I found so poignant. He says, "You have to wake up for yourself, not for work. It's a secret of preventative health. Waking up for yourself means time dedicated to your body and breath. Another secret of preventative health is never have contact with people until you've been in contact with yourself first. This is how you free yourself from people's opinions and expectations. There is nothing better than that feeling. So you need to know what to get up for. Wake up early to catch the cosmic energy wave, stretch and breathe, and do some exercise and chi practice. This is medicine that makes every day magical." And that point that he makes there about waking up for yourself, that and having and not having contact with people until you've been in contact with yourself first. This is really beautiful. I know that when we're struggling with a certain condition, a mental condition or emotional experience, that can be really hard to break through those walls that sometimes feel like brick walls that we have to push down in order to create change in our life. And I had a teacher, a beautiful man, Tommy Rosen, who does a lot of work around recovery from addiction. And he described it as this. He said that when we wake up in the morning, and it applies for, if we're addicted to something, or if we're having these negative looping patterns going on, when we wake up in the morning, there is essentially a vulture, hanging over us, hanging over our bedpost, ready to just swoop us back into that negative loop. And when we make that conscious decision, as soon as we open our eyes, as soon as our first conscious thought enters our mind, we have the ability in that moment to make a choice about if we're going to live this day for ourselves, if we're going to live this day with intention, or if we're just going to just kind of submit back into that dark or disempowered energy. And James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says that if we can look at it as making just, when we're looking at changing our habits, if we can just, rather than saying, oh, I'm going to lose 10 kilos, if we can look at making a 1% change every day and focusing on that rather than the end goal, focusing on the process. And this for me is such a valuable sort of shift in perspective. When we stop thinking about, oh, I'm going to not be depressed, or I'm going to be not anxious anymore by March or whatever. It's, if we can look at it as focusing on, okay, well, what are you going to do to get there? What is the process to get there? And that's where we come into ritual, by saying, okay, today I'm going to do my personal ritual, which has spiritual value. And I know some people might be reluctant to use this word spirituality so loosely, but it's a term that I think we can really make personal in it. It doesn't have to be the New Age spirituality. It doesn't have to be any spirituality associated with any world religion. It's what does it mean to you to have something beyond the surface, and experiences beyond the surface, a practice beyond the surface. And in that opportunity that we have each morning to create our ritual, this is where the art bit comes in. When I titled this talk "The Art of Ritual," it was very intentional, because this phrase, the art of whatever, the art of cooking or the art of blacksmithing, that implies that there's often a great skill involved, or a accumulation of practice. Now, when something is a practice, it's something that we do repetitively, right? But the word art, of course, also implies creativity and creation. So when we talk about the art of ritual, it is a practice, but it is also something that we're creating. And with any piece of art, who determines the adeptness of the one attempting the art? When we create art, it is inherently unique, right? So the art of ritual is not for anybody to assess and qualify. Your ritual is your own. And I find it interesting when you go and look up the definition of the word ritual on Wikipedia or online, so many of the definitions make reference to tradition or prescriptiveness. One that comes up is a religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order, right? Performed according to a prescribed order. Well, there are plenty of really powerful rituals that we can adopt that from the yogic traditions or from various traditions that might be really appealing to us, that we work with for a little bit to experience some sort of spiritual progress. And these rituals have potency because of the fact that they've been used over and over again, and that there is sort of a framework that one can develop a sense of familiarity with, and then that takes us into this sort of other place. Ritual is not about going through the motions. For me, this is a sort of when I asked my wife, who's a very wise woman, when I asked her how she would describe which ritual, she said it's grounded action paired with intention that allows you to access the deepest transformation possible, because you are working not only with physical actions, but you're working with different planes of existence and tapping into all of them at the same time. Ritual, as I say, it's magic. It's not just going through the motions. It's how do you create a space? How do you go about taking an action with bringing intention into it, with creating time and space in such a way that allows you to essentially create for yourself a bubble, or even, I like to say, more of a portal, So when I bring my clients onto my program, which is all about creating a daily practice, a daily ritual, I say, okay, well, every step of your preparation before your practice is just as important as the practice itself. So wake up in the morning, go to the toilet, have a drink of water, and then what we do is we have a process called opening the portal. And this is what is extremely individualized. This is where we each can connect to what it is that is beyond our limited sense of self. Now, some people might use the word God, some people might use the word spirit. It doesn't actually matter except for to you, what it is that that which you wish to connect to. But ritual involves an element of surrender and an element of acknowledgement that there is more than just these thoughts. There is more than just this body. There's more than these minds, this mind, and that is actually our higher self. So when I say that, it's about understanding that we our true self, our true nature is that which is the witness to all of these things that are happening in our head, to all of these actions that we take in the world, all of this accumulation of material goods. All of that can still happen, and we can be having a spiritual experience where we are the witness to all of it. Oh, I'm watching my bank account go up. I'm watching my bank account go down. I'm watching this relationship end. I'm watching my children grow. As we witness these various phenomena of nature, we are tapping into that part of us that knows that, oh yes, I'm Christopher having this experience, but that's not all there is right now. So when we talk about ritual being a pathway to our true nature, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's about connecting into that witness state that sees that, okay, there's more than just me right now. And for some, that might include a little bit an element of, oh, I'm offering up this practice, I'm dedicating this practice to XYZ. It could be to a deity, it could be to a partner, to a quality, towards a goal of cultivating purity or cleanliness or contentment in your life. It's the ritual that allows us to really take the action into a sort of a magical state, a mystical state. And in anthropology, there's this great word called liminality, which comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. Now, this is a very sort of abstract concept to grasp here, but what it is that it's when we begin a ritual, let's say a rites of passage. Let's say that you can probably all visualize a primal sort of a tribal rites of passage ceremony, and in that there's this process of moving from the pre-ritual status of who you are before you go through the rites of passage, and then you're in that moment of participating in the ritual, which is this state of liminality before you come out on the other side. Now imagine creating that every single day. Imagine bringing your routine, whether it be breath work, whether it be meditation, yoga, but setting yourself up for this true rites of passage every day, where, like James Clear says, we're making a 1% improvement or change. And I regret using that word improvement, because I think this is another key bit, is that with integrating ourselves, integrating a routine or ritual into our lives, if we're coming from a goal-oriented approach, then we're denying ourselves the magic that inherently exists within us. Rather, if we take the approach that we're tapping into something that's already there, maybe just slightly dormant at the moment, then I reckon it creates that a stronger possibility for holistic change, for comprehensive remembering of that true nature. And so that liminality piece being the state that we enter when we are participating in our ritual each morning. So it's about going deep. It's about really taking it to the next level, whatever routine it might be that you feel drawn to. You know, there's been a plethora of options that have been presented over this summit, and there's so much out there. I mean, I am overwhelmed and overstimulated by all the different courses that show up on my Facebook feed, all the cool programs that I could be doing. You know, and I've been doing that for over a decade now, and I have to catch myself and remember that actually I have everything I need. I don't need to keep accumulating, keep grasping, keep acquiring, and falling into that path of spiritual materialism. I've been blessed with some people in my life who I can really trust and guide me along the path and help me, and people who I can be held accountable to, who you know, check in with me about my daily routine or daily ritual, and I can speak to them about those things. So it's those are the key pieces that I think a lot of individuals and guys as well that seem to fall where they get stuck is losing that sense of discipline and getting distracted or losing focus, or vice versa. We have some people, I know some people who are just get so hooked on the discipline that they just get, you know, in this pattern of ticking boxes, right? And it's like, yeah, I see one guy, Jimmy's like, yeah, that's me, right? So that's beautiful. That's a strong, healthy masculine quality to be able to tap into that discipline. And it shows that you can connect to your purpose, but can you bring in that little, you know, touch of magic that says, well, okay, here I am, I'm showing up, and now what? Now what can I open myself to today that is a little bit more on the side of unexpected, that is a little bit more about embracing uncertainty and meeting the unknown rather than trying to control everything. And this is another place where I find a lot of men get stuck, is in the idea that, oh, I'm broken, I need to fix myself, so I'm just going to fucking take the steering wheel and go for it. I'm going to just drive this thing and nobody's going to stop me, which is an amazing quality. But if we get caught in that, trying to play God, then we can lose sight of these sort of these hidden destinations, these hidden gems that come along the way from doing a routine each day and exploring possibilities. You know, one thing that just comes to my mind is, you got a yoga practice, right? You might do your traditional sun salutations, and it's very, you know, sort of linear and structured, and yep, cool, I know what I'm doing. But what if one morning you just paused and took a few extra breaths and started listening to your body and exploring a little bit more organically, a little bit less, you know, a little bit outside of the box. And this is that element of returning to the beginner's mind of saying, oh, I don't know everything. I can actually allow myself to learn something about this moment by embodying surrender, by embodying openness and receptivity. And this is the balance of the masculine and the feminine. And that's what helps us transcend the individualized, limited sense of self that I am this body, I am this goal, I am going to fight this depression or whatever it might be. It's actually, conversely, ironically, to the male mind, letting go of that provides more relief than many think. Relief from the constant thought stream, relief from trying to you know, be the one in control, and to surrender to our true nature. So that's for me the magic of ritual. Now there's plenty of ritual out there that I have participated in from the yogic traditions, and and there's also some that from Native American rituals and other indigenous rituals that I've felt, okay, well, that really resonates with me. That part doesn't. I'm not just going to do that because I had a good experience at this one retreat or whatever. I'm not going to, get attached to following the script on this ritual. I'm going to make it my own. And to refer back to Jost's quote there, on top of not meeting, not how did he say it? He said having contact with other people before you've been in contact with yourself. I really stress to my clients that the first thoughts, the first words that come out of your mouth have to be for yourself. They have to evoke that sense of ritual straight away. And that might be a personal affirmation, that might be a request, a prayer, an honoring, a question. There's so much that we can infuse into that habit stacking when we wake up each day. And really, we can have ritual at night, we can have ritual in the middle of the day, but as so much is coming out right now about the power of a morning routine, that is when I find the most potent ritual to take place on a daily basis is in the morning time. So that sort of sums up my little passionate spiel there about ritual and routine. And I think I'd just like to speak for a moment on how I bring that into the work I do. Is that cool, Dave? Is it an appropriate time? Yep. So I have a company called True Nature Retreats. And while the essence of that is bringing people out on retreat, it's not, the retreats don't exist on their own. They're inclusive as a part of a program. Right now, the signature program I have going is called The Journey Within. And this is 90 days to get crystal clear on your daily spiritual practice, your personal ritual. And so the way this works is that I get to work one-on-one with clients about establishing what that ritual looks like for you each and every day, based on what you might be thinking, feeling, experiencing in your life, and where you see yourself heading. And also the types of practice that you feel drawn to, the types of practices that I know from my experiences would be suitable for your body, for your mind, for whatever is going on. And so we have a real deep dive session where we go into all of that, and then I help create a customized daily practice for you that you then have a beautiful PDF that you then print out and don't need to have any screens involved in the daily practice at all. And this is something that I think is really valuable and unique, is that we take this time in our daily ritual away from screens. We make our routine practice independent of our digital selves and have that time for digital detox. So then from that initial meeting, you go and you trial that practice for 7 days, and if it feels right, then it's something that you then commit to for the remainder of the 90 days. During that 90 days, there's fortnightly accountability calls with me, where I include intuitive life coaching as well as conversations around accountability. So I'm there as the guide, as the person that you hopefully can put your trust in, and come to me with what, sort of, reports from your daily practice, whether that is, man, I didn't do my practice these 2 days and I felt like absolute shit because of it. Or it's, the magic that comes through in your journaling as a result of that, or how you felt at your, a work meeting from doing that practice a few days in a row. So many different things come up in those conversations, right? This program includes also group coaching calls and master classes, and this is the other element. So for me, it's about accountability, ritual, and community. And the community piece helps us remember that we're not in this alone, that we have a spiritual community of people who are walking the same path, who are doing this actually challenging work of being confronted by the mind's whatever's present in the mind each day to day. And we get to share stories in those group coaching calls. And then there's also an element of master classes where I will dive deeper, or I'll bring on a colleague who can speak to an advanced topic within our spiritual work that is relevant to everybody in the program. And then the retreat itself, which is optional. Some people who live farther away and aren't able to travel, can do this 90-day program without the retreat. But the retreat brings in a really deep element of integrating these practices, as well as connecting to Mother Earth, to nature. So I just actually finished the first retreat from this program last weekend, and it was incredible. I had 8 people out there with me, and we went and we sat on this piece of land, connecting for about 7 hours, each of us having found a spot, or actually it was more of a journey of letting the land guide us to a spot and sitting there, and some people meditating, some people just being in the presence of their surroundings and actually appreciating silence. And this was a part of a whole weekend journey that created some incredible space for transformation, that I myself was taken aback by the potency of the space that we all shared. And in that time, we did a lot with rituals around water, with rituals around fire, that incorporated, again, various traditions, but we made it our own. And we shared that as a collective. And in my whole approach is to take our practice seriously, but to take ourselves lightly. So we have fun with it, as well as really going deep and taking advantage of that time away from screens and in silence. So connection is the driving force behind the work that I do, connecting to ourselves, connecting to each other, and connecting to nature. And all of that is achieved through this program. And it's unique in that it allows you to really to walk a path of empowerment without relying on me. It's not the Christopher show. It's the David show, or whoever it is. It's us going deep together, and it's about the unexpected, the hidden destinations that arise along the way, more so than the final outcome. So that's my program, The Journey Within.